Hello and welcome to part 3 of my discussion with Asa from Forest School Support. So if you haven't seen part 1 and 2 and my kind of introduction to the series, do check out the previous episodes on this podcast, and also or if you're watching this on YouTube, there's a full playlist linked down in the description that take you right back to the start and give you a lot more of the context. So lightly in the previous episodes, we've talked a little bit about the structure of my Forest School sessions and pretty much how things are now. This is the point in the conversation where we really start getting into the specifics of things that need to change, and how to change them, and how to think about changing them, and the kind of business structure you're looking for. And central to this is pricing. Now, pricing is where a lot of us in the outdoor industry struggle, because we basically want to help as many people as possible, and we don't want to price people out, and we're always conscious of trying to get our prices as low as possible so that the most people can benefit. But this is obviously not a fantastic winning strategy for long term, particularly if you need this to be a large income source for a sole income earner, or someone who is earning the majority of the money for a household. So in this conversation with Asa, we get into the kind of client financed acquisition. We get into talking about knowing your worth, how to price in people to help you, and really just price bracketing and understanding the kind of the ratio price to value and how you are perceived. So this is really valuable conversation, and I think you'll get a lot out of this one. And there's still stuff that I'm trying to work out now, coming just before Christmas and just before the New Year, where I typically review my price structures anyway. And you'll also hear as part of this conversation that I am actually looking to increase my pricing coming into the new year, and how we do that. So I will say now, it's been a very difficult process for me for those reasons again, where it's like I want everyone to benefit. I don't want to price people out. I don't want to hear no's. But at the same time, to be functional, sustainable, provide high quality provision for a long time to come, I realized I had to shift, and that's part of the reason why this whole call and everything else was set up. So anyway, I'll stop waffling on there, and we'll just get straight into my conversation with Asa.
So we've talked about the breakdown of your income and stuff and the income goals. Talked about your schedule there. That was fantastic to hear more about. Now we're into the nitty gritty, so the pricing. Yeah, I've written all sorts of stuff on here, but the first thing I've written is things to think about, and then I've got a few little notes here, and they're really things to talk about, is what they are. Have you come
I'd
across?
be really interested to get a perspective, because as we often generate our pricings in a vacuum, and we don't.
Yeah.
I mean, if we just go with what everyone else is charging, it doesn't really work out. Yeah.
No. Things happen in a vacuum, or people copy what other people are charging, and it seems to be never one or the other. And I think the biggest takeaway that I have learned, in the work I've been doing, is that like price does not equal value, and value does not equal price. You can make the most amazing thing sound rubbish, and by putting a cheap price tag on it. And equally, you can make a very basic thing extremely valuable by how you add to it and how you talk about it and things like that. And we're going to get a bit into that now. Okay, so did we mention before? I think maybe we talked about it on the podcast, but maybe it was something I planned to talk about. And we ran out of time because we chatted for such a lovely long time. Client financed acquisition. Did we talk about that?
No, that doesn't ring a bell.
So have you come on set before? Have you heard of
It
it?
does not sound familiar now.
No. Okay, fantastic. Um, so this is like it's a really clever thing. It's a really basic thing, but it's a really, really clever way of thinking about margins and pricing and business. And a couple of the kind of business mentors and entrepreneurs that I follow and watch on social media talk about this, and they're hyper successful basically as a result of doing this client financed acquisition. So what client financed
That's
acquisition?
actually ring a bell.
Say again, it does ring a bell. Yeah,
That
that's good.
does ring a bell. It's the cost to acquire a customer. So in terms of marketing advertising, is that on the right track?
Almost. Almost, yeah, you're on the
Yeah,
right
cool.
track. So
Oh,
that's CAC. So that's the CAC, customer acquisition cost, which is really important to know. And I would argue that probably less than 1% of forest school and outdoor leaders track their cost to acquire a customer and also the lifetime value of their customer. That's the other metric that people use all the time. But customer financed acquisition comes before all of that. And in the end game of business, you're absolutely right. The cost to acquire the customer goes hand in hand with the client financed acquisition. But in this early stage where we are now, where it's quite a loose market, we're a sole trader, we're doing our best. We maybe have some systems, but we can't sort of control and track exactly how everything's going, and we haven't got sales teams and everything. Client financed acquisition is a tiny little margin that you put in how much you charge that pays for the cost to get your next customer. So a really good example of this is I have a 1 day a week forest school stay and play for toddlers, and I charge for the half day, say a 3 hour session. I charge £24 or something. I don't know. I totally pulled that number out of my head, but my actual cost to run the session, what I need the money for my profits and my salary and everything is £20 per child. But I charge £24, and then I take the £4 and I put it in a pot along with all the other £4 from all the other children in the stay and play, so that I have a fund with which I can um, run adverts on social media, pay for adverts in newspapers, pay for um, uh, leads, maybe through some kind of lead generation company if it's that kind of forest school business, or maybe the pot of money becomes my salary that I pay myself to make content, because social media or content is where all my people come from, organic content, for example. So I'm just planting that seed with you just to think about in your pricing, because I think, yeah, two things happen. You're a big content creator, so one that could pay for you to do those admin days, which might be, free at the moment. And the other thing is that if you branch out into the world of running paid adverts on social media, which I think is a really great way to get people that have no idea who you are to find out about you, you have the money to do that, because otherwise it is expensive. I don't know how much it would be to advertise a home ed forest school program in Birmingham, for example, but if you had an extra £100 a month to run an advert with a budget of £100 a month, and you tweaked the algorithm to say only show this advert to parents looking at home educating, parents in home education groups, parents that follow home education accounts, whatever it might be, then in the Birmingham area, then you've got suddenly loads of people that are going to be interested in what you have to offer. So that's client financed acquisition. That was one thing that when you sent me all your prices and stuff, that was the first thing that jumped out to me, is I wonder if there's some margin in here for finding our next customers. And it's, yeah, basically client financed acquisition is just charging an amount of money for that customer, so they pay for the acquisition of the next one. That's it. And when
yeah.
you look at these big businesses that, even big service businesses, like really, really big service businesses, that are doing, very time intensive things, they actually have no end of customers, because they're constantly advertising for new customers, and there's always people that want to give money because they've got this financed acquisition model going. So yeah, that's that one. And then yeah. Yeah. you said that sometimes you have assistants in your sessions with other leaders, or and sometimes you get the parents to come to the sessions and things like that to support because you can't afford to pay someone else to work with you. It might be an opportunity to, as a very early starting point, to, and you may have already done this, to actually price up what a co-leader would cost per day or per month, whether it was someone that was on a salary or someone who invoiced you and was a subcontractor, or and that's where you could call on your network as well to find people that want to help, because it might be that your programs become more valuable if the parents can leave the children behind, or you can offer new types of programs if the parents can leave the children behind. But also from a safety point of view, you can't do that unless you have more help. So it's at this early stage is just knowing what is that number that I need to get, and then how could I incorporate that number into the margins of this thing so that I can pay someone to help me. Yeah, that would be a thought on that. And equally, actually, while I'm on that thought as well about assistance, because I don't think I have any more notes about it on here, it might be that you actually find some really, really eager volunteers for what you're doing. It could be other forest school leaders looking for experience of other provisions, of other practices, people that want to try out to see if they want to be a forest school leader. And also, I remember when I used to teach bushcraft years ago, we had so many just like the most sprightly teenagers you have ever met, because they're, I was in their shoes when I was 15, 16, and I discovered Ray Mears and Bear Grylls and Les Stroud and all that for the first time, super excited about it, and they were like they were the most punctual teenagers you'd ever seen, because in their head they were just getting a free day in the woods, making fires, helping out with the cooking, helping out with a spoon carving workshop, whatever it might be. But it was amazing for them. So that might be an opportunity for you as well to see actually if in the Birmingham area there's some really enthusiastic teenagers that want to do some work experience and stuff, maybe that you could call on for help as well.
Yeah, I can tell you where I am with all of that. Hopefully, I can organise it, of course, because
Yeah.
there was a lot going on there.
Yeah.
So yes, I have looked into assistance and the numbers. At the moment,
Yeah.
the margin that I'm operating on has just been too low. So I started off a lot of these sessions. As soon as I got a couple of people in, I got an assistant in, but I wasn't filling the sessions enough. And so essentially I was paying someone else and not me.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of a cautionary tale for me for a while. So it would. I was also looking at the numbers and the numbers that can be supported on the sites that I run, and I decided that I didn't want to grow beyond the number that I have at the moment because of the impact on the site and the. But I would agree that having another leader, first of all, I like having another assistant or another leader because they very much offer a different perspective. I've worked with some fantastic assistants who have been much better at the crafts and storytelling and play and all of that sort of stuff. So it's been great pairing up with that.
Yeah. Symbiotic.
As I said, it didn't quite work out. I am starting. I've got some teenagers moving through my sessions, the bushcraft sessions. Some of them have been working with me for more than 6 years, and we're kind of working on designing some sort of apprenticeship volunteer program there that I can get assistance in that way.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, and I think the other thing to say about assistance as well, I think is really great. Kind of had that moment of clarity with the cautionary tale that you you know paid an assistant and you ended up paying them your salary and keeping it, whatever. If we look at the other end of that scale, because I think you're right, I think the time is not now, but I think having a sense of those numbers, so that even increase the numbers in the woods, you can improve the value of what you offer, get parents away, things like that. It's good to have those numbers. And if we look at the spectrum, so one is that you are paying someone else your salary. On the other end of the scale, it might be that you actually if I do X and Y marketing actions that are super effective for marketing my tarps course, for example, then I can guarantee like £1,000 a month for the marketing because this couple of actions I do, this outreach I do works really, really well. So then it might be that actually you doing all the work yourself actually loses you money over the whole because you are being there to save the salary of one person, make more money doing something different. And I don't think you're in that position at all at the moment, but it might be something to think about. I think it's why it's good to have the numbers ready because in time, that actually, if you can outsource the equipment maintenance to someone, or you can let them run a bit of the session so you can do something else or whatever it might be. Maybe I don't know, but it could be that that would work out well in the future for a possibility as well.
Yeah, it's a good thing to
Yeah,
think about.
yeah.
And it does
So
get
that was
rather
that. Well,
lonely as a sole leader.
yeah, it is hard doing it on your own. I did it on my own for 3.5 years, and then I had a full-time help the year and a half after, and it was so different because you turn up a bit uninspired for a session, and they would be super inspired, and then you're like, wow, okay, you've got this, and then you re-inspire you through what they do, and then you bounce off each other. It's a totally different system, and you get great feedback as well when you work with someone else. Whereas when you're alone, you don't get that. Kids aren't very good at giving feedback, really, on things. Yeah. Yeah. So then this was just on my list of things to think about. I think a very not a super urgent piece of work, but a piece of work that comes after fixing all the pricing and trying out some other things is actually to know your worth and know what's worthwhile you doing and what's not. Because it might be that actually we look at some stuff. So I've got an example of this. It isn't a forest school example. It's an example here from Norway. We have this beautiful little lodge in the mountains, and it was priced up completely wrong, and it was priced up in a hurry. And we found that we were always renting it for one night for people traveling from Oslo to Bergen because it was the cheapest place you could rent for one night on the drive between. And the bosses were happy with the pricing. They felt like it was fair, felt it was reasonable. We had loads of customers for one night, like in the high season when everyone was traveling between Oslo and Bergen. We're full, every night and every day. You're cleaning all the rooms again and again and again. And then I did some pricing work for this business here, and I discovered that actually with the costs of everything as what we rent and the share we have with the guy that owns the lodge because we like sublet it through him, that actually even though we were happy with the price, then how the number looked, when we broke down the numbers, we were actually losing £5 every time we rented it out. And we were losing £5 every time we rented it out because we could only rent it out for one night always, because that's how long people wanted to rent it for. So we had to rent it out for 2 nights or more to make a profit. And once we found that out, all of a sudden we stopped telling everyone about it because we were like, hang on, I can't be bothered to go and clean all these rooms today because we're just going to lose a bunch of money. So we're just going to, we're going to wind things down. We're going to tell people we haven't got any space. We're going to do this. And now we're at a point where we fixed it and we're able to get it up and running again. But it was a really empowering moment of actually saying that was not worth my time to do. So I'm better doing other stuff. And there might be in your program that when we get to the nitty gritty of looking at all the numbers and all the development work you're going to do after, that there might be things you go, actually, I'm just going to wind that down because it's not worth my time to put all this energy in when I could be doing this, which is paying much more. So for an example of that, I can think of in the context of your offer, and this is not necessarily a true example, this is just an example that I'm thinking, is if the holiday club is always extremely profitable and fully booked, then actually to keep running your home ed sessions that week as well is losing you money compared to going Monday to Friday on the holiday club, as an example. So it might be that there's like you need to wind things down certain times a year or things like that. So that was just another thing to think about in what you yeah, to do bits and pieces. Yeah, and this is just another question actually that I've got in here. The day rate that you pay yourself, like a figure, a monetary figure that you would like to have.
for a day delivering a session?
Not necessarily. Just salary for Bracken.
The salary for Bracken, uh,
Yeah.
it's
Just cash for you in the pocket.
the number that comes up most often. Yeah, that's slightly more difficult to quantify because that it just being a sole trader and whatever, it just gets wrapped up and meshed together.
Yeah. But
Um,
let's
probably
pretend
probably around
let's pretend
125
that
to 150.
okay. That's good. Yeah, I'd say let's pretend that it's not enmeshed in everything. It's not a business, everything. You've applied for this job as a forest school leader, and you turn up, you do your job, and you go home. How much money do they pay you every day? That's what I want to know. Because I think that's a key part of us knowing our worth and knowing what's worthwhile us doing and what's not worthwhile.
Yeah, it's about 125, 150, probably 150 is the bet.
Yeah, yeah. That's good. And I think another thing to think about going into looking at pricing and everything is being able to uh, think about like for example, how much salary do I want on my admin days? Because actually, if we only think of days worked as days that we make money when we're in the woods, it's really
Yeah,
disheartening to think I'm actually doing 24 hours of work a week for free, or something like that, So how
yeah,
how can we make it so that every day is paid?
yeah, it's something we talked about briefly again in the exploratory call was the whole it's not actually one day, and not a lot of people actually realize that. Well, just because I'm delivering a session for only 2 hours doesn't mean I've only got 2 hours worth of work into it. It's actually
Yeah,
it's actually for every day delivered, it's probably about a quarter of a day just in quarter to half a day in admin.
yeah, always. Yeah. And all the costs of actually turning up in the woods in the first place, the rent, the insurance, everything like that. Yeah. No, really good. That's great. I think that 125 to 150 figure, I think if I was to give any thoughts on that, I think 150. And the reason I say 150 is because when I worked in a school as I was on an unqualified teacher pay scale because I haven't done PGCE, but or QTS, but my pay was 150 a day on that pay scale on that bracket. And I think for an educator, I think if we ignore the fact again for a moment that pay in the outdoors is crap and not as good as it could be and in that sector, I think 150 for an educator even if it's just what we aim for, is a really good figure, I think, to be making. And like £150 a day, 5 days a week, full time after is about 1900 quid a month. So that's getting to the figures that we want to be at in terms of salary and day rating.
That's the reason why the figure comes up. They're not.
Yeah,
It's all it's
exactly.
all it's all broken down.
Yeah, great. So then, cool. So then we'll get into my thoughts on your pricing a little bit. Any questions or anything so far? You're happy?
Yeah, happy.
Great. So I have a few thoughts about your home ed sessions. The 2 hour ones I'm talking about here. I think £15 for 2 hours is fair, is what I would say on the pricing. And I think I certainly wouldn't go lower than that. But I think it is fair for 2 hours, 750 an hour per child. Like that's pretty good. And if I was a parent, that's pretty attractive. Um, so that was the initial thought on the pricing. I think that if you and I don't know about the practicalities and possibilities of this, but I think if you extended the duration of a session, I don't know if you've ever tried that, but for example, if it became a 2.5 hour session or a 3 hour session, you could charge a disproportionate amount more because it's perceived as a much longer period of time. So that was one initial thought I had about that. I don't know if you have any comments on that initially, like why is it 2 hours, or have you tried other lengths or?
2 hours, it basically fits with the day because
Yeah,
I'm on site kind of setting up. It takes about an hour and a half to set up. And then I have basically half an hour to make everything just sorted. So it's just like a breather in between. Then it's delivery 10 till 12, a
Yeah.
break to tidy, to prep and get everything ready. And then it's 1 till 3. And then by the
Yeah.
time 3 o'clock hits, by the time I've packed everything down, it's already 4:30.
Yeah.
So trying to get
Yeah.
more into that, it kind of eats into the time I have available.
Yeah, that's good. That's fine. Yeah, it was just to see if you had any thoughts about that because I think like 2 hours is 2 hours, but 3 hours is getting into like a half a day, especially if we're talking about school day lengths of 6 hours, and that commands a different level of price. So maybe, for example, £15 maybe could become £25 for a 3 hour session. But then obviously I can see now talking to you that to be able to offer that, you would have to be out in the woods longer, probably get chewed up in rush hour more in Birmingham because you're out earlier in the day and everything like that. So yeah, that was just an initial thought on that. And I think I'm going to propose some different things to you, but I
Okay.
think that I would lose the £13 discount and lose the £8 photography discount as it stands. I'm not saying get rid of it completely, but I want to propose some different ways
Yeah,
of thinking about it.
I'm
Yeah,
here to get advice and
yeah,
perspective, and that's yeah, go for it.
yeah. So as in terms of first of all the photography discount, um, is that something you sort of see as vitally important to your content, your social media, and bits and pieces like that? How does it kind of work at the moment? How many people sort of do that for you? Is it all the time or just now and then?
So if I don't get someone to take photos, photos don't get taken
Yeah,
because I decided quite a while ago that really when I'm running a session, my focus should be on the participants
yeah,
and that I'm 100% there. And I can't spare the mental energy and be able to be in the place to take good photos as well. So it's kind of been that fix for in some ways it was a client financed acquisition thing as well because
yeah,
it's essentially I'm I'm spin I'm getting lower ticket price for the to basically I'm paying them in a way so that I can
yeah,
acquire more people coming in the doors and get that constant kind of um, content out on social media. It's also been a way for me to um, give families that are not necessarily as well off and in into the sessions. So it has been a bit of a social angle as
a dis-
well, social good.
yeah. That's really good. Yeah, and I would say the pictures are fantastic. The pictures of you delivering and up close with the kids are amazing. And like you say, you can't take them if you're the one up close. Um, is there a value to the photos for parents as well? Do they get access to the photos too, or is it
So
just for your?
that's something about that I've been looking at developing now. I mean, currently it's something I'd like to do a lot more with, but it kind of takes a bit more time. So at the moment we have a WhatsApp group which some of the parents can opt into. So I've got a 2-tier system or 3-tier depending on how you look at it. People if people have been coming for more than a month, I'll say, hey, do you want to join the announcement group? And they can join that. Their phone number isn't visible. It's just for me to let them know what's coming up, let them know when rebooking's happening, all of that. And then I've got a group within that they can then opt in to join. And I've currently started posting links to the albums in there so that people who opt into that group can then access the photos.
Yeah. What about people that? So if people don't opt into that, they don't get to see the pictures. Is
Yeah,
that the way it
yeah.
works at the
So
moment?
as I said, it's an imperfect system. I'd like to do better, but that's currently the it takes the least amount of effort and time to do. So
Nice.
I have heard that there are kind of ways of getting them out, and there are services out there. Obviously, I'm not trying to add another service and cost. but that would be a way to add extra value. Definitely.
Yeah, yeah, that was the thing I was thinking was if the photos are purely for you, for social media, for marketing, for content, um, then that's one thing. But I think and maybe this isn't the case when the parents are there at the session as well. But if the parents are not at a session, then
And it becomes
actually
massively more valuable.
having the photos and wow moments and the little, it's a huge amount of work, don't get me wrong, but like uh, my girlfriend's niece is at nursery at the moment, and it's so lovely when her mum shares in our family group chat a little golden moment that came from nursery, and it's like she did this, she painted a lovely picture, and there's a photo, and you're like, oh, where because the kids don't tell their parents how was the day, good, it's just like a and say so pictures have their own value added in that way as well. So maybe that's
Yeah,
something to, yeah,
yeah,
I
it's
think.
something I did actually do recently. I have three families who have now been with me pretty much constantly for the last 2 years. So as a kind of a thank you for the support, is I took all of the photos I have of them and made them a photo album each, which is
Beautiful. That's lovely. Yeah, I love
so
that.
that's the kind of thing that would be really nice to do. As I said, just
Yeah, maybe at the end of each
um,
year or something. Yeah.
to drown in
It's
admin.
yeah. The time and the admin is the thing, but it's a beautiful addition and it really adds to the value of something. It's like the difference between saying, well, it's a 2 hour forest school session and it's 15 quid versus saying it's a 2 hour forest school session and we share the photos every week and we have food and snacks included and drinks and we have this and this and this. And then suddenly it's like, wow, 30 quid for that. That sounds great. But actually, maybe the £15 forest school session had all that stuff. They just didn't advertise it. So it's yeah, it's like I am constantly in awe both of the things I decide to buy based on valuable but inexpensive additions versus yeah the alternatives that are out on the market, and also seeing what other people decide to buy based on silly little things. Well, it came with a free this, or well, this had this as well, and it's like, but you paid 3 times the price, and it's like, yeah, but that bit was really important to me, so it's I find that so fascinating to discuss value and stuff. So I think there's a great benefit there. And do the people that take photographs for you, do you ever get them to capture video as well, or
Yes,
just
yeah, it's I have an entire collection of folders on
yeah,
my desktop, and I did use it once or twice. I've just pulled a whole lot into Canva and got the video AI editor to do something fun with it, and that turned out really well. Again,
useful?
something that I'd like to do, but it's just a lot of man hours into that.
Yeah. But I think it's great, and it could be actually that um, the photography thing. It could be something that you keep running. It could be something that you pause for a while if you've got too much stuff for a bit, or something. And I think using the video to make adverts, the most effective forest school advert I have ever seen, and I've seen some shocking forest school adverts. Can't believe people spent money on it because there's no way anyone would want to come. But I saw this one advert. You might have seen it too. It was a Portuguese forest school, and they posted the advert in my forest school group along with loads of other stuff, and it was just an Instagram reel or a Facebook reel of toddlers having an amazing time. That was all it was. It was just lots of clips of like kids pouring muddy things into something else, and a kid jumping off a log, and a kid on a swing, and a kid looking out of a hammock. And it was like, damn, I want to go. That looks great. And I think like if you've got loads of beautiful, candid video of your sessions, that actually, if we're doing the client finance acquisition and we got the money to run paid ads, like let's make a video ad targeted at home education parents about like add this to your home education experience. Like it could be super duper effective. So I like what you're saying. I love your justification for the photography slot. It's got social benefit. It gives you unlimited content. Basically, you're a content machine. If you have time to do stuff with the content is now the next challenge. But the fact that you have this machine is amazing. I think it's just being aware that you might have to turn off the machine if you get too much of a glut, because probably already now you're thinking, I'm never going to get the time to look through all of these folders and see everything and like, whatever it might be. But I think it's a lovely addition. So I really like it. And I think you explained it very well. So that's good.
Yeah. If
Um,
if I mean that's the thing. If it all works synergistically. So at the
yeah,
moment, if I were to just leave things as they were, there wouldn't be very much point in me adding um extra man hours, more things for me to do in a week. But if,
yeah,
say, I was expanding the sessions or changing the pricing, and then inevitably, if you change pricing, there's going to be a bit of a drop off, and I'll be looking to fill sessions. In that case, the extra money coming in from there would essentially justify the extra time spent marketing,
exactly.
getting those spaces filled.
And this is the balance of having a business. It's crazy. Yeah, balancing it all. Yeah. Um,
And there we go. That is the end of part 3. I think we probably still have another at least 1 or 2 parts to go, but we talked for well over 2 hours in this original call. So I've been trying to break it down into manageable blocks for you, so that you can really drill down concepts. Because at the moment, what I'm doing is I'm going through consultation call and doing all the editing and splitting out of pieces for this. And I'm finding it really valuable being able to go back over some of these core concepts and really take a good hard look at them. Look at the discussion we're talking about. Make note of the nuances of the things that Asa said, and really trying to get a good system and structure going in my head. So this is why I've one of the reasons why I decided to block it out into small portions, and why we still have a few more to go. It's kind of so that you have time to digest each element, and really start forming your own thoughts about it without getting a whole of it dumping you, because it was a lot. I mean, I after that call ended, I had to take a good 2 hours out just to sit down, just to process. I went for a long walk, everything, just trying to get my head around everything. And I still had to bounce ideas backwards and forwards for a couple of weeks afterwards with ASA, where I was like, point of clarification, and then we set up an action plan, and yes. So that is why I've broken it down, and why we still have a few more to come, but those will be coming in the new year. This is the last episode or video of the year, because I'm going on my Christmas break from the the 20th. Yeah, so December the 20th, shutting down all the way through to middle of January. So it might be the second week of January is somewhere there that I'm back with videos, podcasts. I might be able to squeeze something in before then, but round about then is where I'm looking to bring things back, so I can have that proper time to relax, to spend time with my family, to recuperate, to kind of get my intentions clear, and to approach the new year with a kind of focus and energy, and that way I can make through to the first 2 quarters of the year, through to spring, through to summer, where things do get a lot easier and a lot nicer in the outdoor industry. So there we go. So that's it. So again, last video podcast for the year. So Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. I hope you do get time to spend time to relax, to catch up with friends and family, to really sort of recuperate, and so you also come into next year restored and ready for what I'm hoping will be my best year. I hope that every year is the best year, but 2025 is certainly going to be different and difficult in its own ways, but it's also going to bring tremendous opportunity. So wishing you all the best for the Christmas period, and Happy New Year, and I'll see you all in 2025. All the best. Remember to make the most of every single day. See you all next time.